everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast, where we talk about real Canadian rugby. I'm Stu Hardy, joined once again by Jeff and Ed. Fellas, we've had the first round of the Nations Cup. We've also had the first round of the Nations Championship as well. Two brand new competitions. World Rugby is responsible for the Nations Cup, and the Six Nations and Rugby Championship are responsible for the Nations Championship. It's been pretty packed days for rugby. Some people saying pretty much 20 hours of men's rugby matches going on, only a few clashes that took place. And of course, they saved the best for last, which was Canada versus Spain. I know that some people will say, well, technically, didn't USA versus Portugal start 30 minutes later? And I'd say, yeah, but they were meant to kick off at the same time, so it's their fault. Anyway, let's speak on the Canada game. You know, this time last year, Canada were having their two matches against Belgium and Spain in Edmonton as well. We're back to the same location, and we all know how it finished in 2025. Penalty at the end allowed Spain to steal victory from the jaws of defeat. This time around, there were no penalties kicked at all, at post especially. Just a try fest. Three tries in the first half for each team, so it's 21 all going in at the break. And then in the second half, we had three more tries each. And, it looked very choppy, especially within the final 10 minutes, Canada pushing on the line. Apparently they had advantage, and then they ran out of advantage and knocked the ball on, and it was a scrum to Spain a few 5 meters out from Spain's try line, and I was starting to think this all feels hauntingly familiar. Sure enough, Spain capitalize. Their attacking strategy, able to split the defense and get that try for the lead. And then just when it looked like all hope was lost, there was a breakaway caused by Noah Flesch. And then the ball eventually goes out, gets grounded. Everyone in the crowd cheering. But then we noticed that we were going to the TMO for a few minutes. We'll speak on the whole TMO structure later. And then the referee said, nope, that's all we're doing. It's a try. It stands. It's all good. Stop trying to milk this. And ultimately, it was Dakota McMullen who stepped up, took the kick to ensure it ended in a tie. Full time, Canada 42, Spain 42. I'll go to you first, Ed. What did you make of this match?
Yeah, it was a rollicking round of rugby all around from the Nations Championship to the Nations Cup. There was points scored willy-nilly. The first All Blacks game versus France was massive, huge amount of points, and then it just continued right throughout the weekend, and it was a fitting way to finish the round with those two games there. Lots of running rugby. It was really exciting to watch for sure. When I initially saw the results of the Canada game, I was pleased. I was like, "Oh, this is great." Canada should be at least drawing these games, should be in position to win these games. When I went back and looked at the stats, Canada absolutely should have won this game, and they should have won it by 10 points at least.
Mm.
Because they were all over the stats, all completely on top of Spain here. I mean, 151 carries to 81 carries. That's almost double the amount of carries. They had five turnovers to one, winning five turnovers to Spain's one turnover. 56% territory, 64% possession. They were 100% in the scrum, line out, and restart. So that's a good point going forward. But with all of this territory, with all of this possession, they only had half the amount of penalties. But the thing there was only an 87% tackle completion. So they were playing really well, but they obviously let Spain in far too much with their defensive completion. Obviously, the attack was working well because they scored a lot of points, but just let in too many points as well. So, really, I mean, when you look at the stats, they should have won by at least 10 or 15 points, I think. So, you know, all in all, lucky to come away with a win. Sorry, to come away with a draw. Uh, probably should have been a win. Um, Canada overall, I think, I mean, the side that they selected is actually quite a big side. Quite enjoyed that. We obviously saw good go forward from Ardron and Flesh, those tries that they scored. There was a lot of kicking as well. Higgins was putting up a lot of box kicks, which were quite accurate, so that strategy was clearly working well. They were composed at maul time. We saw a couple of maul tries as well. Quite patient. Um, and I think, the one thing that let them down was that Spain scored three tries that were fairly identical. It was
Mm.
breaks made through the midfield, just a bit of sleight of hand and a couple of different moves that they ran through the midfield. And unfortunately, Spencer Jones missed a couple of really vital tackles that led to tries. So, if they can tidy up their midfield defense there, I think for the rest of the game, they had pretty good statistics that should put them in good stead for the coming games.
Yeah, good observations. Jeff, as Ed pointed out, maybe this is a game that they should have won, but considering where Canada was just a few years ago, where Spain was shipping 50 points against the Canadians in Ottawa, um, do you see this as a improvement, or do you see this as a plateauing compared to last year?
Well, they still almost shipped 50 points against Spain. Uh, but I would say this, 2 years ago, I don't think that a Canadian team would make that comeback at the end.
Hmm.
So they definitely have, I think, improved their mental toughness in that regard. They didn't quit. Speaking of what Ed said about stats, the stats are a bit interesting. And when I was looking at them earlier today, too, compared when because I watched the game on Saturday. Yes, Canada won their four scrums, but their scrum was always under pressure. And if it wasn't our drawn at number eight, I think there would have been a couple scrum losses there.
Hmm.
I do think the forwards won the game, or sorry, tied the game. Don't get me wrong. I think for the most part, the forwards did. Uh, but Scrum is one area where they still need to improve, I think, in that regard. Especially when the backups came on too. It got a little bit worse, but those were, I believe, Spanish scrums where they conceded the penalties.
Hmm.
Line out was good. They dominated the line out. They dominated the ruck. They dominated for the most part the breakdown in general, which is what I'm saying. Like the forwards really got this tie. For the back line, it did look like it was a back line that hadn't played together before. I mean, Jones did miss a couple tackles, and there were, as Ed said, there were three tries that probably should not have been scored that easily. But the wingers were also a bit out of position sometimes on that defensive line.
Hmm.
One observation I also had when Canada took the lead midway through the second half, Spain also got a yellow card, and it was really strange. It was because it's almost like Canada forgot how to play, and Coates and Jones had some shocking kicks there,
Hmm.
like complete shockers, and just killed Canada's forward momentum.
Hmm.
And later, I think at near the end of that yellow card, Spain tied the game and then took the lead a few minutes after.
Hmm.
So that passage of play was a bit weird and almost cost Canada there. Other things that other any other comment? Like the missed tackles, I know Canada won it, but their missed tackles were unfortunately went to tries for Spain, where Canada's most of Canada's missed tackles I don't think did. Uh, I think the back line, the more they see each other, the better it will get.
Hmm.
The forwards, as I said, they did their job, especially the starters. They did their job. Just Canada, if you ask me what concern I have going into Portugal next week, to be honest, it's not the defensive laps in the back line. As I said, the more they play together, practice together, they'll get better. But the scrum, they got to at least be getting parity. Even in Canada scrums, they got the ball out, they didn't concede a penalty, but they were going backwards.
Hmm.
So, so that definitely needs to be improved. And thank God Ardron was at the back because he salvaged it.
Yeah, I think so. Mentioning the back line is something that we picked up when we were going over our team
Mhm.
selections is that there's no player in this squad who's an out and out winger. So we
Mhm.
have midfield, we have centers basically on the wing or
Mhm.
utilizing those positions, and some of them have kicking skills, some of them don't. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Spencer Jones had a pretty poor showing from that game, but I also recognize that it was him and three other centers as opposed to another center and two wingers who can capitalize. But yeah, that crossfield kick was that was just sliced wrong surface of the boot. So on the point when Cooper Coates went down in the build up to the final try, that was the concern of, oh, this is what happens when you have two kickers and they both get injured. Well, I think
Yeah.
Peter Nelson was a
Oh,
tactical substitution. So,
yeah. If I could just say one thing, I think Nelson did go off injured, but for McMillan, thank God he had the awareness
mm,
not to touch down the ball there. He ran in closer to the goalpost to make that kick
yeah.
easy.
Oh, yeah. That was
Yeah.
Kyle Tremblay.
Tremblay,
McMullen,
yeah.
Oh,
Dakota
Tremblay.
McMullen
Yeah, for McMillan.
took the kicks
Yeah,
there.
Tremblay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was great. And cheekily, I also noticed that Tyler Ardron, when he did his overpass and Spain tried to knock it on, and if they had, it would have been a penalty try. But Ardron put his arms out and effectively blocking the Spanish players from potentially tackling Tremblay early. But yeah, I only picked that up on replay. But I'm not the TMO, so what can I say? Actually, I just want to mention that the TMO for the Nations Cup isn't at any of the games. They're at a central location in England and getting the feeds in. And this is a new agreement with World Rugby. It's currently not only going on in the Nations Cup, it's also going on in the World Under 20 Championship as well. And it's to reduce costs, which I think is a pretty fair enough explanation. Obviously, if you're annoyed with how long it takes for the TMO to get back when the TMO is based in the stadium, oh, just wait until they're the other side of an ocean. Um, yeah, so the TMO call at the end, I was trying to listen in on what the reason was, but I couldn't pick it up. I think they said there was potential for a crocodile roll, but the arms weren't in the position around the neck to cause that. Then it
And he
was
didn't roll him either. He didn't roll him. He
yeah,
just held him.
he just moved him over to the side, and as the Spanish player went down, I think the Spanish player just lost balance and rolled, but not forced to by the Canadian tackler. I think there was also potential of a forward pass off Ardron, but then it was no, a Spanish player tapped the ball, so that was fine. Um, but yeah, if we didn't have a TMO for that game, I think that would have been a big like black mark against the Nations Cup as a whole. Is if we need this is something that we've become accustomed to. I think it's been in rugby now for close to 20 years at this point. We understand the importance of having a TMO, especially when it's these tough calls to make. Um, and the reality is that not every stadia in the world has the facilities to be able to house that technology. So to have a central location in London, um, and it's basically TMOs working from home. But you know, if it has the TMO, if it has that clarity of the game needs, I'm all for it. I know some people are a bit miffed of the TMO and want to give all responsibility to on-field ref, but I just keep saying the same thing. If it was if something went against your team and you wanted TMO in your position and you didn't have it, you'd be pretty upset with that. So, you know,
What
six.
we absolutely, sorry, Stu, what we absolutely can't have is a production manager in a home country. This happens in France all the time, where they will show the replay of something that they deem to be for their team, and then
Mm,
the referee picks up on that, and the play gets decided from a
mm,
TV production manager calling the shots rather than someone in a neutral position. So
mm.
the bunker is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, well, we're getting all the bunkers now. We're getting the yellow card bunker. We're getting the TMO bunker. It's time to bunker on down, I guess. Um, ulti Ultimately, my thoughts on the game was I agree with you, Ed. I think Canada should have won this. I think they should have been able to tie it up. But I also acknowledge that a year ago they were inches from a try that would have sealed the game for them, and then they eventually conceded the penalty that lost it. This time round, they were unable to. Again, Spain were able to cut through the defense of the midfield and get the try. But yeah, I agree. The resiliency of this young Canadian team to be able to fight to the very end, get that try. Yeah, it wasn't a win, but it's a draw. And to be honest, that's a far better result than the past few times we've been playing Spain.
One team looked happy at the end of the game, one team didn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I think this is also poetically perfect for the build-up because next time these teams meet, I believe it will be in the World Cup. So,
And
and say,
Canada,
oh, yeah. Where,
let's say
what was the
Canada,
result in the last game? Oh, they tied. So we don't know. It could go either way. And
I
hopefully
just
it
think,
goes Canada's way.
and Canada's team should be more experienced and a bit more veteran, where the Spanish team, I think, is probably, I'm sure they're missing a couple players, but I think they have a reasonably veteran lineup already, I think.
Yeah, Spain were one of the big movers at the last World Cup. That they had
Yeah.
improved out of sight from the previous 2019 to 2023. But I think when you talk about Canada, there's two things to mention. Performance, number one, and they played well. The stats show that. So, maybe disappointing on the result, but trajectory is the other thing. So
Yeah.
long as they're playing better and the team looks like it's on the improve,
Mm,
which I think we all agree it does look like that, then that obviously puts you in, good position going forward.
Yeah. Their back line should only get better with more experience.
yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make here. Yeah.
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 Yeah, as we said when the head coach took over the job, it was in like the worst of both worlds. He had to both qualify for the World Cup and develop young players at the same time. But now Steve Meehan has had his first year under Canada's colours. Obviously, didn't go perfectly well. Only one win from 9 games, but it was the one win that mattered. So who
Yeah.
am I to complain? And already starting off this year pretty well. Improvement on the team that they lost to last year with a draw. So all good. Here's hoping for um, closer to another victory in next week's game against Portugal, which will be back in Edmonton and be at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Speaking of that game, what are some selection changes that you would make to, get Canada the first win of the year? Jeff, I'll go to you first.
For the forwards, honestly, I believe Olmstead's in camp. I would just start Olmstead in place of Kelly, and Kelly goes to the bench for
Mm,
the forwards. Backs, I'm not sure I would do this, but this is just I thinking is you were probably going to see Gallagher start. I think
mm,
I wouldn't be surprised if all nine start one game
mm.
this July. Backup, I'm not sure if it would be Webb or Higgins. The backs get interesting, and this one thing is I was thinking, would you risk Josh McIndoe, Noah Flesch center pairing?
Mm,
That's what I'm trying to think. Part of it makes me wonder is the health of Coates and Nelson.
mm.
Which
Yeah,
which we're not aware of,
yeah.
and for the wingers. But would you do that? I'm kind of leaning towards that. McIndoe 12, Flesch 13, center
And
pairing.
that
Yeah.
is a very good pair. I'm not sure if that would be for Portugal, maybe Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
but I think that is a good option. And you want to get the backs in a comfortable ability that they can potentially slot into positions if need be.
I mean,
Ed,
most likely we have time on because the PNC probably Mikdo and Flesh Mikdo might be in university, but maybe Flesh would be available. But like I said, for that, a lot of it depends on the health of Coates and Nelson.
yeah.
Yes.
Ed, what selection changes would you make?
Yeah, pretty similar to Jeff, actually. I mean, Olmsted has got to come in if he's available. He's got to come in just for his experience. It does shorten the line out a little bit, but I think you can work your way around that when you've got Ardron at 8. That gives you lots of good line out options. And obviously, Flesh as well, who was one of the top line out takers in the game. So you Olmsted, I think the experience in there is good. I probably leave Higgins in because I thought he played fairly well.
Mm,
And you want to try and build your spine of your team, your two, your eight, your nine, your 10, and your 15.
mm.
And if we're looking at Higgins as our number one guy, maybe he's not. Maybe Gallagher is the number one guy. So maybe there's a chance to look at both of them. But you want to try and start cementing those guys for the World Cup. Uh, Again, I think Spencer Jones is a natural 12 rather than a 13. We've seen lots of different teams around the world experiment with their 12s and 13s. But 13 is such a crucial defensive position because the space outside 13 is so large. And, we could see teams like Spain purely taking advantage of that, if not running someone on the outside into that space, running a decoy line where somebody goes on the inside of that center. So it's a really, really difficult place to defend. As Jeff says, maybe Spencer Jones just needs a bit more time there to bed himself in and just get more familiar with the defensive requirements there. But I also would be tempted to have Noah Flesh in there. I think McIndoe is the future. He needs to continue on. Maybe you rotate him and Jones in and out at 12. But I mean, Noah Flesh was awesome when he came on. He had two line breaks and he made that break that led to the tying try there. So I'd be tempted to go with them. We're talking about not having wingers. Kyle Tremblay came on and scored the winning try or the tying. I keep thinking it's a win, but it's a tying try. So he might be the option there to fill in that wing spot. But yeah, I wouldn't make too many changes. I think the team's got momentum. So you might want to just tweak it slightly. The only other concern is, are you trying to give all of your squad game time? Is the real concern trying to build combinations and settle on your number one squad? Or are you trying to give everybody a chance to play and see how they go? That's where Meehan's brain will be at, whether he thinks there are people who are still vying for a number one position or whether he's got a good idea of where people sit already.
Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis. I'm going to say I'll agree with Jeff of get Evan Olmsted in the starting lineup for the game against Portugal. Isaac Kelly to the bench. Yeah, for the backs, not 100%. Obviously, kicking options are limited now that Povey's out of the camp, and hopefully the injuries to Nelson and Coates aren't too severe, and that they'll be good to go again on Saturday. Yeah, I think from the game last year against Portugal, I think that there were too many laurels rested upon in in that whole European tour. And I think it's you know, we've already seen one try this Nations Cup. I'm sure we can go for two, ideally pushing for the win, and having the home advantage is definitely going to make sense. I kind of agree with you, Jeff, on getting the nines to start each game so that we can get like a fair assessment of where they are. Obviously, Brock Gallagher, Edmonton hometown hero. I think him starting is very poetic, and I'd like to see him get that start against Portugal. In the same way, I like Stephen Webb to start against Zimbabwe, and we can just use that as the measuring stick of how are these guys doing. Obviously, now that World Cup qualification has been secured, there's not really too much pressure on this. Obviously, there's no grand final round like there is going to be in the Nations Championship, so placing in the table doesn't matter unless you're number one, which Canada should hopefully be by November. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I think this is a good time for the coaches to take a look of different starting options as they prepare to look ahead to the World Cup. Speaking of which, in this game, you may have noticed that Canada, after the past year or so of having just red or white on their jerseys, now have like this interesting writing on it. I don't know what's going on with there, but apparently Picton Investments have become the primary sponsor not only of Canada men's senior 15s, but also the women's as well. You'll notice if you're fans of Canadian women's rugby, as we are, that earlier today they had NFP on their jerseys. Well, NFP is going to remain as a partner for the Canadian women's team. They'll be moving to the training kit, Picton. They're behind this Earn Not Given campaign with Rugby Canada. And, they're now going to be the sponsor of both the men's and women's team. So finally, great to see Canada getting a jersey sponsor as well. It's a very welcome sight after the past couple of years. Yeah, and as we mentioned, that game against Portugal will be this Saturday, July 11th, at Edmonton in Clark Stadium at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm just going to jump ahead a couple of months because we've also had the announcement that the Pacific Nations Cup is happening this year. Kinda. So instead of the 6-team, 2 pools of 3 that we've had for the past couple of years, this is now going to be a single round 4-team tournament that just goes from 2 semifinals and then a final and third place final the next week. And that includes Japan and Fiji, Canada and the USA. So Canada will play Japan and the USA will play Fiji. And because those are tier 1 versus tier 2 opposition, it's going to be USA versus Canada in the bronze final and Fiji versus Japan in the main final the following week. But something interestingly I just found out is that Canada are already slated to play Japan on the 5th of September, which is a week before the Pacific Nations Cup. So they'll be playing Japan twice this year in back-to-back fixtures. And then they're going into the final or bronze final for the Pacific Nations Cup. Ed, I'll throw it to you first. What do you make of this 4-team PNC tournament?
Yeah, it's a little odd. I mean, why even make it a tournament if it's already predetermined who's playing who, and what if there's an upset in the first round there, and then all of a sudden the teams that win are playing for the bronze. I don't quite understand it. The extra game as well against Japan. It will be great for Canada to get 2 games against Japan, who just beat Italy, by the way. So that is going to be a good matchup, and a good chance for Canada to test themselves. Against Fiji would have been even better, I think. I think Fiji's probably a better team, but they lost on the weekend as well. The key will just be to kick the crap out of the US. I think that's the only thing everybody cares about. So I'm looking forward to that happening.
To clarify, the final and bronze finals have not been announced. I'm just predicting it at this point
Oh,
because I'd say Fiji and Japan are the tier 1 nations up against the tier 2 of the USA and Canada. Jeff, so yeah, this feels like a really odd fixture to go like 2 semis and then straight to the final when that means that Canada is either not going to play Fiji or the USA. Uh, what do you make of this?
Well, like Ed, I don't really understand it. Why not just make it 3-week round robin? My only guess is, since you said Japan and Canada are playing on the 5th, is one of USA or Fiji cannot make it for the 5th.
Hmm.
Like that. That's my guess, and that's why they're going this route. That being said, Japan is having a lot of injury problems, although I do expect them to beat Canada both times.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's kind of interesting if they decide to go real BC team for this tournament because they've had a lot of injuries in camp for the Nations Cup already. So if they give their top tier guys, all of them, like a break or something like that. That being
Hmm.
said, I still sadly expect, assuming what you're saying is accurate, Canada, USA, bronze medal game. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I think from Japan and Fiji's perspective, uh, I think everyone was predicting at this point that they would be joining the rugby championship, only to discover that there is no rugby championship this year because of the rugby's greatest rivalry tour that
Yeah.
has 3 games in South Africa and 1 game in the US because reasons. And yeah, I think ultimately that we mentioned it last year. This is, you know, 2 tier 1 nations up against tier 2. It's only ever going to go one way, even if it is like the second string 15 of Japan. I think Eddie Jones wants to ensure the um, fitness of all available players that he could potentially select to the World Cup, and he'll use this as an opportunity to get guys some test experience as they prepare to, hone down their squad for the World Cup next year. But yeah, I think the goal, as Edward say, should be to beat the USA, and we did it last year. I'm sure we could do it again this year. However, because the games are taking place in September, I don't think we'll have any European players. So that's Olmsted and Ardron out. As you mentioned as well, it's the start of school again, so maybe some of the players that are currently in university may not be able to join. Maybe, they could do distance learning for the first couple of weeks, depending on their course, and see what happens. Make that distinction to the Thunderbirds and see if UBC is okay with letting them get some
I was a
international
professor at
experience.
UBC. I'd be giving them the pass.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Now we have some news of some signings overseas, as mentioned. Jeff, you want to go have more insight into this?
Yeah, I believe the first two are not 100% confirmed, but they are apparently about to happen. But Tyler Audron will sign with Providence in the Pro D2, and Evan Olmsted now will play for Nisa in the Pro D2. Interestingly, this is a club where Jamie Cudmore is the manager. So hopefully he can find a few other Canadians to sign for that club, especially some backs and maybe one number 6 that maybe was a hound at the breakdown. Also today, Nick Ben has signed with Hawke's Bay at the NPC. Andrew Quatrain has signed for Carcassonne in National 1, which is like French Tier 3. And Cole Keith has moved from the Doncaster Knights to, well, I should have practiced these names before. Uh, uh, Perigu, I probably horribly butchered that. My apologies to the club in National One. So that is 4 players signing in France and 1 signing for NPC in New Zealand. There's also rumors of 2 youngish tight head props that Canada has in New Zealand. Charles Trollope, he was a starter in the semifinals and for the New Plymouth Old Boys, so maybe he can find an NPC side in New Zealand. There's some rumors around him. And Evan Roy, who is co-captain for Zingari Richmond, which is in, I believe, Otago area. And rumors are that Otago or Southland are looking at him for the NPC. They're both tight heads. I believe was 21 or 22, and Trollope is 1 or 2 years older than him. So some encouraging possible news for the scrum. Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. And congratulations to all those who've been signed or about to be signed. And
Mhm.
yeah, more experience, more Canadians playing. That's all that we like to see.
Mhm.
Speaking of Canadians playing, we've had 2 finals take place over the past few weeks. We'll start off with the big one, the Premiership Women's Rugby final. 11 Canadian players featured.
Mhm.
Uh, we had 6 for Saracens, including the 2026 PWR Player of the Year, Olivia Apps, alongside Alicia Corrigan, Sophie De Goody, Julia Okahale, Letitia Royer, and Gabrielle Senf. And with Ealing, we had Maya Montiel, Claire Gallagher, Cassandra Tufnell, Emma Taylor, and Sally Williams. Yeah, Ealing, they shocked everyone by beating Gloucester Hartbury in the semi-finals, ensuring that we would be getting a new champion this year. And it was interestingly enough that when we interviewed Sophie De Goody, she said one of the things she wanted to do was get a title with Saracens. And sure enough, they were able to do so. The final score, Saracens 52, Ealing 14. Now, I'm not saying that Saracens won because Sophie De Goody did the interview with
Mhm.
us. in the months leading up to it. But you'll also notice that Saracens didn't win a title when Canadian players weren't interviewed in previous years. So I'm not saying it's the cause, but I'm not saying it's the cause as well. I guess we'll have to
Stu,
do. Yes, Ed.
I'll, I'll also add that Justine Pelletier won a title there as well after coming on the podcast. So
Eh, Okay, but in fairness to Justine Pelletier, she had 3 titles under her belt beforehand. So, I'm again, maybe we encouraged it, maybe we got it moving along. Um, but yes, that is good. In the Elite 1 in France, the women's top level rugby. Justine Pelletier, Fabiola Forteza, and Karen Pacan. They featured for Stade Bordelais for the Elite 1 final. The final score ASM 10, Stade Bordelais 22. They go back to back to back to back 4 times the Queens of France. And an interesting tidbit I found out is that Karen Pacan was named in this squad on the subs bench. The weekend before, she had flown back to Quebec to give a rugby camp with 100 girls and
Wow.
was able to fly back in time for the final. So that is absolute dedication from Karen. Another medal to go around the neck. And from what I've heard is that Karen has said she never plans to retire. She will always put her hand up. It may just be the coaches stop calling. But everything we want to see. Canadians winning. We've had Canadians win in the MLR final. Now we have it in the PWR final and the Elite 1 final. And if you want to watch those games or catch them up, you can do so on YouTube, the PWR and Elite 1 YouTube channels. And as we mentioned before, if you want to catch Canada in the Nations Cup, those games are available on TSN. If you want to catch other games in the Nations Cup, you can do so on Rugby Pass. And if you want to watch the Nations Championship with the Tier 1 nations, you can do so on Premier Sports. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out more, as well as our written pieces on our website, therougerugby.ca. We'll also find our podcasts on Spotify and YouTube, and we're available across social media, including Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky, all at The Rouge Rugby. Jeff, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on X at WP Rugby Jeff.
And Ed, where can people find you on social media?
Facebook and YouTube, rugby_101.
And you can find me across social media at Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. Well, that's where we're going to end this episode. Jeff, Ed, thank you both for joining me, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Rouge Rugby Podcast, where we talk about real Canadian rugby. We hope you join us again next time.